my special guest star, fantastic ventriloquist, and one of my bestest mates, Mr. Steve Hewlett. Hiya, bud.
Andy Ford, or as they say in Spain, Andy Fordio. How are you, mate?
Oh my God, you remember that far back? Well, actually, we have known each other for quite a long time, haven't we?
Long time. The first time I saw you and I was crying with tears of laughter was that TV show, what was it? The Big 1997. Sorry. Yeah, on the Big Talent show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was that, wasn't it? The first time. And then it was Gary Bushell and Jonathan Ross. They loved you. They loved you on there. And I went okay. But it was nice to meet you because from then on we've stayed in touch and it's been great. We were on the show with the winner of the whole series, Lydia Griffiths, the lovely Lydia.
Lovely Lydia.
Very sad, but Ian Royce, who we've lost last year, Ian Royce was on our show as well. It was a really good comedy. It was a good comedy episode, ours. Really good. That's where we met on telly.
Fun. And but see, one of my earliest, I know we did the show together, but I remember sitting in the caravan in Cornwall where I was doing a summer season. And for some reason, that you might be able to explain this because I'm of a certain age and the memory goes a bit. But why do I equate you and your lovely lady coming round to see me in my caravan and baked beans? I don't know why.
Right. Let me tell you the story. I told Nina, I said, I'm doing this video with Andy. I'll give him my love. She said, as soon as you mentioned Andy Ford, I remember him sitting in his caravan, editing a video. You're always editing videos, right?
Yeah.
Even back then. And you were in a caravan in Cornwall, editing a video, eating baked beans, and you were sat in your pants. You had a T-shirt on, but you sat in your pants. You leave that bit out, you see. But for comedy purposes, we'll put the true story in there. And she just hasn't forgot you in your pants, really.
You know, everyone watching this has now got the visual image. Thanks, mate.
Yeah. Are you wearing those pants now, or do you have trousers on? Like a proper presenter?
Underneath all these clothes, I'm completely naked. Serious. Boom.
I love that. 1997, those lines, they're just so... Your style is just completely unique, and when I say brave, because no one else would do what you do, Andy, and no one would get away with it the way you deliver your style.
Don't always get away with it.
Well, we don't all get away with things we try. You know, I struggle in gigs, especially the last year. I've struggled doing gigs in the bedroom. But, they say work from home, don't they? And my wife and kids are sick of my act now, so I've got to get out there and do it.
You're ladies and gentlemen. But what I found about that whole thing was that you came around, not only were you both lovely people, but you came around to pick my brains about showbiz and comedy. And
we were chatting.
It's quite brave just to knock on someone's door. I'm not saying I'm anyone or anything, but I've just done a bit the Desert Corner stuff and all that. And you just knocked on the door and said, tell me why you do it. Tell me how you do it. Where'd you get the gags from? And it was just, and because your main skill, I suppose, actually, I'm going to debate myself about that, is the ventriloquism. Your comedy to you, am I right in saying it's just as important as the ventriloquism?
It's as important, I think. Yeah, the comedy part, as you know, Andy, it's difficult writing original material. And for a ventriloquist, you can have the technique and the puppeteering skills. That's great. But if you haven't got a great patter or banter between you and the character, and you're not building that character and separating your character to that one. So I'm primarily two characters, you know, and you both have to have personalities and you both have to have gags. You've got to have good gags, and you can do some old-fashioned gags if you want. I try my best to write my own material and write routines and gags, but you're always going to slip in some old classics, especially if they're not in the act and it comes to you when there's a situation in the room that you can use it. You'd whack it in anyway, you know. It's not like you've heard someone do it. Yeah,
with an old gag, because if someone hasn't heard it before, it's a new gag. It's just for those of us
in the new audience.
Yeah, for those of us in the business, we all know the old gags and the guys that run TV and all that lot. they know all that stuff. And yes, it may work,
Yeah.
but they're looking for something different. And I think that's why Britain's Got Talent pushed you right for. You did the final and stuff, didn't you, on that?
Yeah, I got to the final, but it's because I used a bit of innovation and it was Nina's idea to get the Simon Cowell dummy made up. So we got that made up for the semi-finals, and that pushed me through really to the finals in the show. And then we got the Sunita made up. So it's really a matter of writing material. And I wrote a lot of fresh gags that week. I literally had 4 days to write the final spot. So what you see was Simon Sunita. One guy was making the puppet, Peter Pullen, who's a genius, your neck of the woods. He lives in Stroud. And then he was making the puppet. He didn't sleep for 3 nights, and almost literally. And then I was like frantically, they told me on the Wednesday with a phone call that, okay, you're on Saturday night. Can you get down for rehearsals on a Friday? So I had 2 days before the rehearsal to get an act together. So I wrote the little bits for Simon and Sunita, and Nina says, oh, you should do the Grease number. I don't know it now. I didn't know it then, but she taught me.
3 days before the final.
We had 3 days to write it because they want you to have an act ready for the final if you get through, And I had loads of different acts, but the one I ended up doing, it completely changed because they wanted a new celebrity dummy in the show. And I wrote the Simon in especially for the show. But I never thought I was going to get another one made, but they asked for it. They said, can you get another judge? And I said, I don't think another judge will be funny. I think it'd be predictable. So why don't we go with Sunita? What if I get a Sunita puppet? Yeah. And it did work. It worked perfectly. I think if it was David and Simon, it would have been that banter that they do, sort of David being in love with Simon. And that would have been great, but I don't think it would have made the impact that the Sunita one did.
But can I just say this, and for people watching that aren't in the industry, I mean, I don't go too pro-y on it, but when you're doing a television show, like the first major Des show that I did, I'd written all the material, muscle material, but I'd also worked it at live gigs and stuff. So I knew where the laugh was. I knew what words to push and everything. The second time I did Des O'Connor, I went on with a new script. I want to do all new stuff. And I struggled a little bit. I had to go back and record it again. And I remember the producer saying, even when Bob Monkhouse comes on this show, he does material, he tests it out for a long time before he brings it on. So doing brand new material within a week of the final, to get it right. I mean, you do have the benefit of the visual with the vent, but it's still a very brave thing to do. And I can't salute you highly enough because it worked. But it's scary, isn't it, if you don't know the material?
Thanks, mate. It is, Andy, it was terrifying, really, because Nina said to me, I wrote these 2, maybe 3 brand new lines that wasn't in the original script because I was watching the show every night it was on before it finished. And I was picking up little nuggets from it. So if you mention what happened early in the week, and all the fans are going to laugh because they know it. So when I was in the studio, everyone was buzzing. But when I'd done the rehearsal on the Friday with the Simon and Sunita, all I had in the crowd was a couple of the acts and the crew. And it got a few titters. But when the Sunita come out, it got a few more titters. But I started to sweat because I think, oh, hang on, this isn't going to be as funny as last Saturday night. I think this is going to struggle. And I was panicking. So over that Friday night, I was rehearsing it, but I was trying to make it more of a performance. But I wasn't convinced, really. There was not much laughter coming from the crew. So I thought maybe I'm going to struggle tonight. And then I got to the finals. I was backstage at the studios. And I thought this is only really going to work because it worked the week before when Simon was in the audience. It's funny because the puppet is in front of Simon. That's funny. So if Sunita's going to be there, it would be great. But if she's not, it wouldn't be as funny. So that's only why that worked. And I walked past her in the corridor and I had Sunita in a bag going to get her hair done. She was going to get her hair done, the puppet. And I don't know where the other one had been. But when she walked past me, she said, oh, hi, Steve. She said, enjoyed the show last week. I said, thanks. She didn't know that she was in the bag. But I had it in the bag and I pulled it out of the bag and it worked. So, but Nina actually said, I can't believe don't do those gags tonight. You've not, just like you said, you've not tested those gags out. Don't do them. I said, no, I think they're going to work. I am brave in that respect. And I've had people, comedians, agents say, don't test out that material. But I've done it for 23 years And yeah, you're the same. I've seen you so many times, and you don't know if it works until you try it out. I try material on cruise ships, you know.
Well, on live TV, Steve.
Oh, I know. That's probably why I haven't done one since.
You've done loads of telly since I know that. Go on, do your cruise ship thing.
Yeah. I put if you're walking about or something. I think a lot of comics do this. You walking around New York or you're walking around Southampton, you know, and something happens or it rains. Everyone's got caught in the rain. If you mention, you know, I went swimming today. Well, I didn't. I walked around the port. If you just make a gag up around that situation, or I walked into New York today, you know, 3 days ago, and I just got back. It was, if you add something that they're related to what they're doing on the cruise, if you're in the Caribbean and there's this really funny cruise ship or something and it's shaped like a pineapple, and if you mention that, they'll laugh because they saw it, you know. So I think if you topical, isn't it? It's being topical.
I'm just going to say that's why topical works. If people know the setup and what you're talking about before you say, you don't need, let's not get too technical here, but you don't need the killer line as much as if it's something they don't know anything about, because they're laughing with you already because they've experienced the same thing. Yeah, definitely. You know it's going to get a laugh. And I do that a lot, actually. I mean, if something happens in the news, I'll put it on the next night. You know, I had when Madonna fell down the stairs, you know, Madonna at the Brits, they pulled the cloak off her and she fell down the stairs. Yeah, that night, the following night I was working, I put a cloak on Arthur Lager when he came out and I tried to pull it off and he fell off the table.
Here we are. Hello, ladies. Look at me, King Arthur. You're not King Arthur. Why are you wearing that? I got it off eBay. eBay, yeah. Who from? Madonna. Take it off.
Big laugh.
That's
2 nights later.
No, Steve, you think of those things. That's why I admire you so much. You're not lazy. You really work on it. Yeah. You try to. But then a couple of days later, that routine doesn't work because the news it's dead news, isn't it? So you've got to have the bed of a really good act there. And then you can sprinkle the lady. You can try this. You can do it. I like that. Sprinkling stuff on a bed. Are you what are you sprinkling on the bed? There's a bed there. Are nuggets of comedy. This is like, oh, love you. Remember that? Love you. That was the mating call of the giant clam. Love you. So that's what I love about you. When you've been on the bill with me on some of my shows, and I trust you completely because I know you try stuff, and that doesn't scare me because I know that you've got everything. You've got the talent, you've got the dolls, you've got the gags that you can fall back on if needs be, but you're also brave. I'll say this out loud. I've never seen you fail. Oh, well, we've only done about 5-6 gigs together, so I failed. I think we've all failed at some point, you know, but we pick ourselves up levels of failure every day, you know, but we can talk about the failures, but we just, in this business, you pick yourself up. And I feel like I failed in the last year because I've not worked. But I've done some gigs and I've done things like this, what you're doing, and I've watched you do it. And what you're doing is you're not a failure because you're lifting people's spirits. You're sat at home because we have to be, but you're still doing what you do. When it's in your blood and when it's in the heart, it's a passion and you're not a failure. So if you go out there and have a tough crowd, it's them that's failed, you know. You failed to laugh at us, and we're hilarious. So, I was saying to Billy I don't know if you saw that one with Billy that I did, the happy chat. I've not seen it yet. I really want to see it. Yeah, it's a good one. Very, you know, lots of comedians things on there. I really enjoyed it. But we're getting similar stuff out of you today. But I was mentioning about I was on a cruise ship once and I struggled and the bloke told me how bad I was. And at that stage of my career, I felt that I should fight back and tell him, well, I'm funny. Whereas when you get exactly what you said, when you get more experience, it's not great, but it's all right-ish that they don't like you. Because not everyone's going to like you. And as long as you like you and you believe in it, then that gives you the confidence to keep going out and doing it, really.
Yeah, you need to like yourself before the others can like you, you know. And I was walking to walk into the venue to do my sound check on a cruise and rehearse my bits with the crew, and there was an elderly couple just sort of standing there looking at the poster to see what was on tonight, and they looked at each other, went, "Don't like ventriloquists, we won't be going to that," and then they walked off. And so, but you hear things like that and it disheartens you, because she's like, okay, they've seen a bad ventriloquist and they're not going to give you a chance, which you're another human being. Give someone else a chance. Don't pigeonhole everybody, because everyone is different, you know. And I've had people come up, and you would have had this. I love ventriloquists, but I didn't like you. But mainly you get it the other way round. I've never liked ventriloquists, or I hate ventriloquists, but you were funny. And you get that. Or I hate comedians.
Yeah, I used to get that hell of a lot, particularly on cruises, because like you can't
run anywhere.
They're looking at the poster. They don't really know who's on tonight. They haven't booked the cruise to see Andy Ford or Steve Hewlett. They just
they did for me. It was the Steve Hewlett cruise. Yeah.
Oh, I see what you did.
Yeah, it was going to the Isle of Wight. It was a ferry.
Just thought.
All right. It was a rowing boat.
That's the way to do with that.
No, I know what you mean. They're there, but they don't have to be there. But
yeah.
And that's why, Andy, that's why I love supporting you, working with you. Bristol Hippodrome, we've done 2 or 3 times together. Thanks for having me on, because your audience is my audience. They love variety and they love comedy. So you give me the chance to actually work with you on those shows, and we know that they've got a similar sense of humor and they can laugh. And I appreciate you trusting me on that, because it has worked, doesn't it?
It's the difference. And since you've had all your success on TV and stuff, I noticed there's another thing that I really admire about you, because I put my own shows on in areas where I feel enough people that like me would like to come. And it's slightly risky, except the shows usually are good, because you only got people there that want to buy a ticket. That's the difference. If they buy a ticket to see you, they've already committed. And that's what you do when you do your shows. And because you've got the fame now, you've done the TV stuff and that, but you don't rest on your laurels. You put your own shows together, don't you?
Yeah. I'm putting a new one together now, and it went out last March, but it closed 2 nights later for obvious reasons. But that show now, I'm thinking if we don't get it on stage this year, I may stream it, because it's something I can film, because it's a theatrical piece with me and Arthur Largo, and it's one of the. But Nina says it's the best thing I've done, and for her to say that, and I've done some good bits and worked with some characters and done some nice shows, but to write a brand new piece, and for your wife, who supported you for 20 years, to say this is the best thing you've done, that means a lot. As you know, Michelle supports you wholeheartedly, so it's really nice.
She's my biggest critic, by the way.
They can be your biggest fans as well as critics, but Nina is my biggest critic, and exactly. I have to honor her decisions. I have to honor her points and her critiques, because it does matter. And then she would say, like, oh, hang on a sec. I would say to her, or so-and-so said this to me, so I'm going to do this. She said, yeah, but I said that to you 2 weeks ago and you ignored me. Did you get that? This
is my life.
Yeah. And I said, no, I didn't. I said, I took it on board, but, like Andy Ford said I should do it, so I sure should do it. So, but, your fellow performers, they confirm that Nina was right. So I make her feel better that way by saying it. And what you're saying about doing comedy and when you're doing jokes that have been heard before and stuff, you're comfortable with doing material that and they may have heard it, but it may be a new joke or routine to somebody else. But when like Rod Stewart comes out and sings, "We are sailing," you don't go, "Heard it before." You don't hear that. Like, I've heard it before, and do us one we've never heard. But you've got bits in your acts that people want to keep seeing again. It's like, I love it when Andy does this routine, or Steve does that routine. I used to do this thing with the Crows, and I dropped it because I was doing it for like 18 years. couple of years ago, I dropped it and someone came to see the show. They come to see me in the theatre. And I said, oh, you did do the Crows. I'm thinking, yeah, but I've done that. You saw me do that 10 times over the last 20 years.
That's one of the reasons we came back tonight.
I know. They've spent 40 quid to see the Crow routine. And, well, it's on the DVD. So there you go. But, you know, it is about reinventing yourself as well, isn't it? And in this time, really, I'm sure you put on some brilliant shows and plays as well, haven't you? It's about being creative. And I've got some amazing ideas. I think they're amazing. And Nina's actually confirmed it. So I know they're good.
Right. I'm going to change tack just for a second here.
Okay, so am I. Hang on. I'm going to face this way.
Different angle. It's weird outside because we don't know what's about to happen, blah, blah, blah. Doom and gloom everywhere. One of the reasons I'm doing this happy chat thing. Question to you, where is your happy place? Where do you feel safe? I know you're going to say with your family and stuff, but can you find contentment in amongst all the frustrations of not being able to work? Where'd you go for that? Billy likes to go in his garden, he said.
Does he?
What do you do?
Do you know what I like to do? What I've started to do? I do all the shopping you see here. So when I go shopping, I put my headphones in. And I really only got into this about a year ago. And I'm talking about like Debbie McGee and Louis Theroux. Podcasts have become my thing in the last year. I always just played CDs in the car. And I love driving to a gig. And I've got like 10 CDs. I'll get through them on the way there and on the way back. They're my CDs for the night. Yeah. And so I would go shopping. I put my podcasts on. I choose one, or Desert Island Discs. I've listened to at least 200 of them. I love them to bits. It's just, I love biographies, you see. So I would love to sit down in the garden, read a biography. That's my happy place. Or now at the moment, as you know, I'm hosting the podcast. And so I love talking I love doing this. I'm not going to say no to this. Not only you get to speak to a mate, but hopefully we're entertaining to other people as well. So doing things like this and connecting with people is an important thing. At the same time, I like to be in my own space. My happy place really is me reading a book or listening to a podcast. And I do it when I'm around Tesco's. There are other supermarkets, but I've got my headphones on. It may be quite sad. It may be quite sad if people have seen me. I don't think I've seen anybody, but I'm just shopping. I'm listening to that. So I'm in my own little world when I'm shopping.
Occasionally.
I'm laughing out loud in the cheese section, you know, and all the cheesy jokes. I love yeah. So I probably get a lot of weird looks, or maybe, 50 people over the last year have shouted my name and I've ignored them. And I feel bad if that has happened, but I don't.
What a misery that bloke is. I just said hello, Steve. Nothing. Blank me. Boom.
Nothing. He's changed. But I've got headphones in, and I'm really listening to Louis Theroux talking to, all these people, and it's fascinating. So I'm in that little world, and then I'm at home, and Nina got me a little door sign that says Steve's recording a podcast, keep out. She knows how much that means to me. So I'm recording the podcast in the spare room, and I love doing the research.
Where can my viewers find your podcast, Steve?
I was down here. Do you want it? Here it is. Yeah, it's there. So the podcast is called Eyes and Teeth. And you can get it on Apple Podcasts, Google, I think all those sort of things, Spotify, it's on Eyes and Teeth. So, and that's, I think I released one this morning. So I've done about 36 so far, but I've got about 100. Yeah, there's about 100 coming out. And we've done Billy Pierce, bless Billy as well. He was out a couple of weeks ago. And so I really love doing this because not only do you get to research and get to know every person you speak to like you're doing, you get to know things that you didn't know about that person. And oh, wow, I can't wait to ask them that question. And then it goes somewhere. And because we're comedy acts, me and you, we can go off on a tandem and then come back to a question. So it does make the interviews longer.
Did you mean tangent, or did you mean a bicycle for two?
Oh, we should all go on a bicycle for two and go around the park when we're allowed, but only when we're allowed. A bicycle for six, maybe.
The tandem would need to be about 12 foot long.
They would be, but I don't even know if that's the right word. Is it tandem? That's a bike, isn't it?
Possibly tangent, but you're only young, see, so you've got so much to learn. Right, let's take you back even further, young Mr. Hewlett. Oh, by the way, yes, I will do your podcast for you because you asked me the other day, so I'd be happy.
Thank you. All right, we'll have that done. Brilliant.
Yeah. Let's go right back to the young Steve Hewlett watching telly, because you're a lot younger than me. When I was a little boy, when I watched my variety shows on telly, I did like the Ventacs. I didn't want to aspire to be them, but they made me laugh. And I remember Terry Hall and Lenny the Lion. And even, I think, Archie Andrews. I think I was in that era. Who was a Ventac. Was it Peter Bruff and Archie Andrews?
I'm doing the eyebrows because you can't be old enough to remember them, those guys. They retired for 40 years. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm 64 now. Well, next week after. So
no, you are.
Those are the things that I love. I mean, Archie Andrews was a Ventac on the radio, for goodness sake. So the young Steve Hewlett, that Lenny the Lion, and that, you might have researched it since, because I know how much you love your profession. But when you switched the telly on, who made you think, I have to be a ventriloquist? Who was it? And let me just say, spoiler alert, Keith Harris?
Yes, there's three. There is actually three that happened at the same time. So the first time I saw it, the first ventriloquist I ever remember was about 5 years old, watching Learning with Lenny at school. It was black and white, and they would show these videos on a VHS, at school. And I remember watching Lenny the Lion, but I thought when I was 5, it was a real lion. So if you just forward 7 years, New Faces, 1987, Jimmy Tamley, a ventriloquist, lived around the corner from me, and he won the grand final, and it was fantastic. But I was sat there in awe. All my family were going, vote for him. He's from Basingstoke. He lived around the corner. So we voted. It's one of them phones, where you go, those phones. And then, so we voted for him about 10 times. The next day, my mate Diddy at school, he said, oh, that ventriloquist who was on telly last night, did you see him? I said, yeah, we did. He said, he lives opposite us. So I walked home with Diddy, and we knocked on his door and asked for his autograph. And Jimmy was handing out these 10x8s, Denman repros. Denman repros. Yeah, he was waiting because
I used to get Denman repros.
10x8s, not 9x7s or 8x6. It was 10x8s. And so he signed a picture for me. And then the next day I went back and got one for my mum and dad. And then I went back because my sister wanted one. I kept knocking because I'd never met anyone famous before. And I thought, oh, this is amazing. And so, and then my sister, about a week after that, my sister came home from school with a ventriloquist dummy, and he had ginger hair, made of plastic. And she said, oh, my friend gave us this. He was clearing out his garage. And literally, she was like 2 years younger, so she was 10.
It's all kismet, isn't it?
It's weird, isn't it? Synchronicity. And so this dummy turned up. So I've met a ventriloquist. I've got a dummy. And then I took the dummy around to Jimmy. I said, look what I got, right? Can I learn? Can you teach me? And then Jimmy said, Ray Allen.
No, go away.
No. He said go away first, and I wouldn't. I kept coming back. So he said, Ray Allen's just released a book. He was on telly the other night. It's called Got All the Gear. Get the book for Christmas. And if you're still interested after the new year, come back and say how, tell me how you're doing. So I went away. So that worked. He got rid of me for a few weeks. And then Christmas morning, it doesn't matter really. It doesn't matter what else I got that day. I knew that the Ray Allen's book was going to be wrapped up. And that I sat there Christmas Day, 1987, and I just read that book cover to cover. And it was fantastic. And probably Boxing Day, I went back to Jim's with the dummy and the book and said, right, what do I do? And he taught me everything. And as you know, I roadied for Jimmy for 10 years after that.
Yeah.
12 to 22 years old until I turned professional. I would always jump in the car. After school, I'd go to like Weymouth 2 or 3 nights a week with him.
So you watched his show every night then?
I learned to be a ventriloquist by watching Jimmy, and he taught me everything. We became best mates, and we're still besties today. He's the most.
I love him.
He's the loveliest guy. He's one of the funniest guys as well when you're doing shows with him. And I'm just gutted I can't do a cruise with him because I'd love to have a week with him on a cruise. But 2 vents. Have you? I bet you have. It's not going to happen with two vents.
South America way together, Costa Rica and all that lot.
Yeah, and it's where a lot of our great anecdotes are born on cruise ships, isn't it? Like going out for the day or just doing a cruise show that night, you know, and hanging out with your buddies. And I love doing a cruise where you meet up with your mates, and it's so good. I've got a lot of great memories of my career on the ships. Just I've had amazing times on the ships. You know, Dave Evans is one of them.
Ships than I do. I have to say, you are perfect for ship. Well, you're perfect for everything, really. But for cruise,
I can just get away with it. Yeah.
You know, it works. You have that visual as well. So even if they're not getting the dryness of your humor, you know how to make it work. When I offer up what I offer up, if they don't buy it, then the shop's empty for them, really. You know, there's not a secondary thing to go to. I used to sing a bit, but not so much now, as you can tell by the voice.
Yeah, you do. You put on a great variety show. You know, you always do it. I love the little things that you do where you add a little bit of music, but there's a gag coming. You know, and you do little sort of sound bites of songs and stuff. And it's just your character is wonderful. It really is.
You know where I got that sort of, not just from him, but that sort of idea. Someone that you've worked with and you probably love as much as I do. That's what Ken Dodd would do. He'd just break the show up with bits of music, bit of acting as well. But it just, the show, you had to concentrate because the show would change every so often.
Yeah, you did. And I feel sorry for the bands because they had to concentrate. They were like, oh no, hang on. He's going to do the gag. Hang on. The drummer, you know, waiting to go. And then he'd wait 17 minutes. He'd wait 17 minutes for the next punchline and then bang, you know. And then the keyboard player waiting 2 hours. Hang on, he's going to do the song. No, he's moved on to that routine. Hang on, he's going. Oh, hang on. Yeah, take the ice creams back in. Yeah. So, and I used to stand in the wings when I toured with Ken. I used to stand in the wings. Not only did I watch him, I'd watch the band. He had a keyboard player and a drummer. I think normally just two guys, I think. And so, but I'd watch them because how are they, and then no disrespect to Ken, but how are they staying awake? You know how it's longer than 3 hours, you know, because they would sometimes back me as well. And I'll have a play on and play off. And they were happy to, and they do the Muppet Show, you know, on the keyboards. And they'd done all this. So they played me on. And then by the time I finish, if I close the first half, which I think Ken would come back and do another hour after me. So no one closed the first half. Ken opened. I think you do 2.5 hours in the first half of the show. And then there's an interval. And then somebody else would open up the second half. Sometimes I would open up the second half, but Ken would bring us on. And then he'd do the last 2 hours.
There'll never be another, will there?
No, he was incredible. That's Max Miller, little quote there. But yeah, there'll never be another Doddy. And I'm so blessed I got to work with him and admire him.
Advice, Steve? What was he like to you backstage? Tell us what Doddy's like before a show.
Oh, he's amazing. I used to love going in and getting me check, you know, because I knew that Lady Anne Dodge, you know, his partner, she would drive him to gigs. She'd unload the car. She'd take him through. She'd get him ready, get his lunch, get his cup of tea. And then she would go and set the props up. She'd go and talk to front of house. She'd put the merchandise out. She'd sell the merchandise. She'd do the encores on stage. Ken Dodd's show, there's merchandise. She'd do all of the, the microphone.
While she was preparing everything, what was Ken doing?
He was sitting down having a cup of tea or a can of lager, I think. He was talking to fans, mainly talking to fans outside. And Anne would work so hard getting everything in, and Ken would, and I was one of them fans. When I was 14, I first met him, and he would talk to me for about 20 minutes. He gave me his address. He said, stay in touch. He said, one day, because I told him I was a ventriloquist when I was 14, or a budding ventriloquist. And he said, stay in touch, and please, one day you'll work with me. You know, you'll come and work with me on tour.
Oh, this is fantastic.
He stuck to his word, you know, and I'd done a TV show when I was 16, and I sent him the tape because I wrote to him. He said, oh, please send me a copy. So I sent him a copy. And then when I was 20, I worked in Blackpool, and you were there in Blackpool in 1995. I come to see you on Central Pier, I think.
1998.
Was it 98? Was it? I must have visited after that then. Yeah, because, it would have been after Big Talent, wouldn't it? So I was there in 95, and Ken Dodd was doing the Grand Theatre in Blackpool. And I just went to say hi. I saw Anne and I said, hi, it's Steve Hewlett, the ventriloquist. I keep writing to Ken, for advice. And she said, oh, Steve, come in. And then, because he said, I told him I was in Blackpool working in the Tower at the time. And he says, if you come and see the show, just come backstage and say hi. So I told Anne I was there. She'd take me to his dressing room and we'd chat, or he'd say, come after the show and we'll have a longer chat. And I sat there for an hour one night at the Grand Theatre, and he just sat me down and said, right, what do you want to know? What can I teach you?
Wow.
And he would talk about, sort of getting paid for gigs. He says sometimes it's not about the money, it's and Ken said that, but he basically said, do your gig and earn your money, and then drive away. If it's a bad night, don't worry if it's a bad night, because there's another night coming, So if it's a bad gig and they weren't a great audience, and I'm 19, 20 years old at the time,
wow.
And he says, just drive away and then sort of just do that to them, Don't worry, I'm going to do another great gig tomorrow. It'll be a good audience. And I have had those nights, and I think of Ken. I think
the superstar gave you of his time to tell you all that. It's a bit like when Barbara would chat to me backstage at Panto, but one of your heroes has been lovely enough to encourage you and give you suggestions. I mean, that's what I love about our biz.
Yeah, Ken was always like that to younger entertainers. He cared about us. Roy Hudd was the same. Roy Hudd was just an incredible person and had time for everybody. And if you were in variety, if you're a comedian, Roy Hudd would give you advice. He would invite himself into your world and ask you, what you want to know. And that's what I love about it. Now, I recently just became a patron of the Max Miller Appreciation Society. And I'm like, I'm overwhelmed to be asked,
because it's a funny thing.
Yeah, there's a funny thing. And there will never be another. People like Max Miller, Roy Hudd he was in a show with Max Miller. And he would tell me things about, Max when he was at the stage door wanting Max's autograph, and then he sold him some jokes. And so I think Bob Monkhouse done the same thing. He sold jokes to Max Miller. So these up and coming comedians, they've looked after us younger generations, like me and you. And it's such a nice business.
You can't do this without caring, though, Steve, can you? You can't have longevity in this business we call show unless you love it. And if you love it, you want it to continue. And unless you're a horrible person, of course you're going to share and pass on info. Even if you're eating beans in your pants, you would do that.
And you did. You ate those beans. Mind you say you're a nice person. You didn't share the beans around. You just ate the beans. You were getting ready for
value. There was only 16 in there.
Oh, wow. The caravan must have cost you a bit of money back then. That's where the money went.
Anyone else just been so lovely to you?
Okay.
Me.
We were talking about.
Who else?
Yeah. There was 3 key ventriloquists that really helped me. So when I was 16, I'd done my first TV show. And actually, the first one was a local TV thing on Meridian with Jimmy Tamley. And Jimmy was teaching me to be a vent 4 years after we met. And that was great. And then Keith Harris, when I was 16, I got a TV show called The Pig Attraction. And I went down to Bristol, HTV Bristol, your neck of the... I didn't know you then.
Have-a-kazoo. That's where I filmed Have-a-kazoo.
Yeah, I'd love to have a kazoo. Yeah, have a kazoo. I used to have a kazoo.
One of his talents. One.
I'll do the other one in a minute. And so he's HTV Bristol, and Keith Harris watched me. I got this job. Ray Allen was on it, Keith Harris and myself, and it was called The Pig Attraction, hosted by a puppet pig for HTV. And they wanted a young ventriloquist. They wanted 2 legends and a young up-and-coming vent. So I came on there with little tiny Tina, and I had a puppet called Neon. So I had 2 characters. I'd done a little spot. They filmed me doing a little spot. And we'd done the whole thing at the end where I'm sat there with my characters and Keith, Orville and Cuddles are sat there, you know, so it was like this, actually. It was like that.
Blimey. They look a lot bigger on TV, don't they?
They do, yeah, but they're quite far away. So
sorry, I missed that. Who was the other vent?
The other vent was Ron Lucas. So when
Scorch fame.
And Keith Harris had a TV show in the late 80s. So it was, there was a couple around at the time, you know, and Ray Allen was doing lots of bits still. Roger DeCourcy, you know, so I would look up to all these guys.
Roger DeCourcy and Nookie Bear.
But Nookie, yeah. And he was fab. And Roy Hudd introduced me as a water rat. Roger DeCourcy seconded me. So he invited me as well to be a water rat. So that's for another vent to do that. That was nice. But yeah. Ron Lucas came over. He had 5 TV series over here, and he was a household name. You know, Ron was everywhere. And I went to the studio. Jimmy took me to the studio, and I watched one of the rehearsals. And when the audience were sort of sat there waiting, and the floor manager was saying, you know, cut, somebody told Ron Lucas there was a young ventriloquist in the crowd. I was 13 years old. And Ron said, "Where's this young ventriloquist?" And so I put my hand up, and Jimmy said, go on, go. Jimmy pushed me up.
Wow.
And then I walked up onto Ron's stage, and he said, "Do a little bit. Can you do the alphabet?" So I went, A, U, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. And the studio went mad. And I thought, wow, am I going to get on the show tonight? But no, I didn't get on it. They cut that. And so, but you can imagine that for me to be a 13-year-old, I've only been doing it for a year. I'm sat with one of my best mates who's 20 years older than me. And I've just met one of my heroes as well, you know, so I've got two inspirations around me, and they really, really did make me feel wanted. And they handing down all of this advice and all of this passion to be a ventriloquist. And now I'm writing a book, finally.
Hey!
And this book is called Ventriloquist, and I've interviewed Jimmy. I've got a nice interview with Jimmy in there, and Ron Lucas done the foreword for it, and he's written a lovely piece for the book, you know, at the beginning of the book, and I interviewed Ron for the book.
Is it biography, Steve?
It's kind of confusing, really, because I don't know how the publishers are going to, which I've not approached yet. Don't know how the publishers are going to put this out, because I've interviewed probably about 30 ventriloquists, maybe more, all over the world, in America, Australia, India, China. And I've got like history events. You know, I've got letters that Terry Rogers and Terry Hall wrote to me when I was a kid. I've put them in the book. And also my connection with the ventriloquist world and my knowledge is all in the book. So if it's not a how to do it, I'm not going to sit here and go, right, do that. It's actually, you will be learning to be a ventriloquist by listening to every ventriloquist experience over the last 50 years, you know. So it's a really nice lesson to read, because you get, I interviewed Paul Zerdin, Nina Conti, the winners of America's Got Talent. So Terry Fator's on there, Darcy Lynn, the young 14-year-old. So there's a big dynamic of ages as well, you know. Willie Tyler and Lester. Jerry Lewis. Oh, Shari Lewis, yes. Now, Shari passed away in the early 2000s. 1999 she passed away, sadly. So I interviewed her daughter, Mallory Lewis,
right,
who took over Lamb Chop. So Mallory and Lamb Chop. And she gave me a few short answers. It's one of the shortest interviews, but she did give me her time. And so, it was quite nice to get that connection, you know, and ask her about Shari Lewis, who was one of my idols. So it was.
Well, that's the thing with ventriloquism as an art, as opposed to a culture of personality, because, well, Lamb Chop had a fantastic personality, but it wasn't a real puppet, just that hand puppet. Yet you couldn't take your eyes off it or her. And that's what I feel you do. So you can have all the technique in the world. You can learn exactly how you should tell a gag. In fact, there's algorithms as to how to write the perfect gag, but it comes down to the human being in the end. and how you bring your puppet, or in our case, a sock with a bit of fluff, to life.
Yeah.
And that's from Arthur, how are you, mate?
Oh, what's he talking about? What, puppets? I have no idea what you're saying, Andy.
We're talking about ventriloquism. I don't know if you've been there. It's near Cornwall, I believe.
Oh, yeah. It sounds like a disease, didn't it? That sock you talk, those talking socks. I can't stand them talking socks.
Yeah, but your mate there, he can make his hand look like a character. So, have you ever watched him rehearse, Arthur? What's he like?
Oh, they're not going to do it. Hello, how are you? Oh, sexy. No idea what you're talking about.
Exactly. Tell me, Arthur, I shouldn't really be interviewing you, but seeing your ear, and there's nothing else on the telly. As a puppet, do you find it awkward having a conversation, or more awkward sitting down?
I find it comfortable having the conversation and uncomfortable sitting down because,
he has to hand it to you, I suppose.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, he has got a hand in the act, Yeah. I want to go back and watch Lingo.
How long have you two been together?
17 years, about 17. A first gig that we did, actually, it was in Greece, the musical, Sha-la-la-da-ga-da-ding-a-dong. Not that, it was in the Greece, the country. And we're doing a Thompson hotel, I think, or it was a big family hotel. No, it was a family, or it may not have been Thompson's. But anyway, we were doing this show, and I didn't have Arthur Lager until that night. But I was managed by an old comedian, actually, called Brian Marshall. He was a manager, and he managed me
for a while.
Did he really? Wow. So he said to me, Steve, you need to get an old man in the act. You're going to get one. It's you. Oh, rude. And so I got Arthur Lager, and I pulled out one of my characters called Butch, which Butch was on the Big Talent Show with you. Do you remember where we ripped his suit off on that show? I took him out and I put the old man in. Watch it. Yeah. Rude. Ageist. And I put him in and he stormed it. So Butch went okay with the material that I had, but I gave the material to Arthur and spruced it up and changed the voice slightly, and he just wowed them. And he's been in the show ever since. On his
debut, did you rehearse, Arthur, or did you
actually? I didn't rehearse, no, because I was sunbathing. Yeah, sunbathing.
Well, yeah. It's natural talent then if you can just go out for a show and smash them like that.
Well, natural, unlike Derusi. Who? Derusi, yeah. Bruce Forsyth, yep. And who else do you like? Those Doddy, that's easier to say, yeah. And Roy Hudd, yeah. He's like one of those old classic comedians, yeah. And that these days it gets difficult, and you find it difficult to hold on to the. Do you know what I'm talking about? The what?
Script.
It rhymes with a ladder. I need a toilet. Oh, he's gone. He needs the toilet. Sorry, he had to go.
Oh, lovely. You didn't mind him popping in?
I don't mind at all. He's here. He's not going anywhere, and he's been in lockdown for 17 years. Yeah, because when he's not on stage, and this is a question people ask: do you talk to them when you're at home, or I mean, Nina she probably wouldn't be with me if I spoke to the puppets. They're props, aren't they? Like you use props in the act, and so they don't come out.
Boris there, by the way.
That's not the real one, but it's that's a Boris Johnson puppet which I had made last year, just before he became Prime Minister. So it was a bit of a risk, but I thought it'd be topical. So I've done a few things online. Do you want to see him?
Yeah, it'd be lovely if he could give us an update, because while we've been talking to you, there's lots of news happening in the world. So
I know. Yes, I know. Andy Ford. I know. Yes, you. Have you had your jab?
No, I think I'm due for it soon. But as we speak, Boris, I haven't yet. But I'm keen to take it. I'm not an anti-vaxxer.
No, so you don't do the hoovering, no?
No, that's an anti-vacuumer.
I know. You, Steve, I'm not having my jab. You can have it now. Ooh.
I go, Steve Hewlett and Jack. I need to go and do a wee. They all want to do a wee. That's how they get out the act.
I tell you what, are you in the shallow end in that room?
Yes, yeah, because my wife's on this end.
Right.
Yes.
Boris, thank you. Lovely to see you.
I do another update next week. I'm going to go and do the slides. He likes to do the slides, you know. So
okay.
Here I go. Whee! He's on the slide.
Right. Thank you for bringing those gentlemen on. Right. We're going to wrap it up here because we've been yapping for ages and I've learned so much. I mean, I've always liked you and I've learned even more about you. How's your gorgeous family there? Tell us a little bit about your family before we go.
They're lovely, thank you, Andy. It's been really nice to be. You said about my happy place. This is my happy place because my wife is here, Nina, and I do all the cooking, and she loves my cooking, so I love that. She sometimes laughs at my jokes. That's good. But my kids have made me laugh for the last year, you know. And
what age
homeschool.
is now, Steve?
She's 41. And the kids are 9 and nearly 5. Actually, in May, Larissa's going to be 5. Lola's 9. So that they're at a perfect age, you know, for what's been going on. For me to be daddy and to be home has been very important and a really nice, happy place actually for us because they've had me here for it. I'm so glad I was able to be here for all this horrible time. But when you're kind of locked in, and doing all this, you know, you find your things to do. They watch so many movies. We've created a lot together. There's a lot of paintings and, you know, games. We play snakes and ladders and drafts together. The kids love those. And
anybody was there?
My daughter Larissa, actually, she's brilliant from the off. Like she knew I was doing this because I'd get a puppet out when she was a baby, you know, weeks old and then months old. And then when she got to like 2, I said, can you say chickadee China, the Chinese chicken, like daddy, chickadee China, Chinese chicken? And she does it. She goes, Tigger the tiger. You know, she's only, she's 4. But even now she does it. What can you say as a ventriloquist?
Tigger the tiger. Nanny.
Can you say your name?
Larissa.
Mate, thank you so much for joining me today and talking about your happy place. What's for the future then? What do you reckon? If all the vaccinations work and just say summer it starts to open up again, have you got stuff planned?
I've got gigs in. I want to go back to Panto, which I've not done for about 5 or 6 years. So I'd love to do Panto. Yeah, I'd love to. So I've got gigs in, so I'll just do the gigs. I want to launch my book next year at the Kentucky Ventriloquist Convention in America. The podcasts are going to go until I hit 100. That's the plan. And I've nearly finished recording them all. I need to get you on. So I've got about 100 lined up. And so, yeah, but once I'm back on the road again, because it takes about 6 hours, as you know, to edit one of those. And so to record them, research them, and then edit them and then post them. Like I've done one this morning. I do 2 a week at the moment Yeah, so that's all it's going to be really is podcast and then getting my brand new show back on the road. Yeah.
What's going to be the title of your new show so people can look out for it when it comes out?
Arthur Lager Gets Real, and it's basically him. I depict his whole life on stage. So he's a little boy, then he's a teenager, then he's in his 40s, and then he's 60, and then he's, as you just saw him. So it's different puppets, but it's the same puppet. And it's his life story.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lovely little piece. So I can't wait to get it re-rehearsed again and rewritten because I launched it last month.
With other acts as well.
It's just me. So the second half of the show will be my variety act, which will be all of the other characters. But there's one half of the show which will be 1 hour. It's just Arthur Lager. And the last time I did it was an hour and a half, you know. So, yeah, it was quite long. So I may only just do one half because it's too long. Otherwise, it's in
you are the hardest working guy I know in the business. And I've spoken to lots of people who say, well, there's nothing to do. There's always something to do.
Yeah, you have to find it. You got to create it. You know, it is out there. And I've got so many ideas. And it just, I'm inspired by other people, and it's connecting with people like you. Will come up with ideas just talking today, you know, and that's when you go and entertain the audience, because we've got something that we can share to the world, you know.
Well, it's a mutual inspiration society here, I feel, young man.
Yes, yeah.
I cannot thank you enough for joining me on Happy Chat. And don't forget to check out Steve's podcast, Eyes and Teeth. And we'll speak pretty soon, because I'm going to do the podcast for you as well. So, mate, thank you for joining me. Let's get through this all together and get out and entertain people again.
Love you, buddy. Thanks, Andy. Cheers, mate.
Take care.